Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Really excited to see everyone online today. We've got a really exciting webinar to host, myself, Matilda and Shauna. So thank you everyone for joining. If everyone could just do us a favor and just, you should be able to post into the chat. Thanks everyone. I will post into the chat just under them. If everyone can just post in there, just say yes, hello, whatever you like. We won't bite. We promise you can post as many times into the chat function as you like, but we just want to make sure you can hear us and then you can see us. That is the most important thing at the moment. So if everyone can just post into the chat, say g'day, just make sure you say you can hear us. Sounds like everyone can hear us because you're saying g'day, which is a good sign. Amazing. Kia ora, Shani, welcome from New Zealand. Lovely to see a Kiwi on there, on here, sorry, or in the chat. We've got a lot of tests. So I'm wondering if Zoom is doing some funky business and the names haven't come through. I'm not sure, Matilda and Sean, have you seen a lot of tests on your end? You are?
Yeah. Not us, not testing.
Yeah, we don't have a heap of people tuning in testing this webinar. So I think if you've seen lots of tests, that's a glitch on Zoom. So apologies, guys, if you've you do. We're sure you guys all have names, but apologies, it isn't coming in. So perfect. Well, what we'll do is at 6:01, we've got about 30 people tuning in currently, which is exciting. We had over 100 people sign up for this webinar, which is really good. So we might not actually get 100 people tune in, but we'll get started nonetheless. So thank you everyone for joining in this evening, whether it's 6 p.m. in Australia on the eastern seaboard, or whether it is 8 p.m. over in New Zealand, or whether it is another time somewhere else in the world. We did have a fair few different nationalities tuning in or registering for the webinar, which is obviously really exciting. But the purpose that we're here is to talk about relocating to the UK. So a little bit of housekeeping before we jump into it. We will record the webinar, and it is recording now. So if you just wanted to just have that in mind, we'll share this after the Zoom call as a part of the follow-up. So if you're taking heaps of notes and everything like that, don't stress too much. We will share the recording, but take as many notes as you like. You can post into the chat function, which a lot of people have already started doing. So thank you for doing that. We will do our utmost to keep to time for 1 hour. So that's 7 p.m. in Oz, and then 9 p.m. in New Zealand. So it doesn't cut too much into everyone's evenings. We will allow for Q&A at the end. So if you have burning questions, you can post them into the chat as mentioned, but you can also wait to the end, and then we can allow everyone to post questions into the chat, and then we can answer them all then. If we do skim over slides, it doesn't mean they're not important. The content on the slide isn't important. It just means we've got a lot of stuff to cover, and the goal will be that you learn lots about moving to the UK and all the fun and exciting stuff. So, but we'll jump into it, and then we'll do the introductions. But thank you everyone for posting into the chat. I hope that these test names do change over, and we have a few more people's authentic names coming in, but for some reason we've got 20 people in there under test. So awesome. But we'll start off with an acknowledgement of country. So we recognise that we are hosting this webinar from the country of the Gadigal of the Eora Nation and the Wadawurrung of the Kulin Nation. We recognise the traditional owners of the countries and where we meet today, and the First Nations people present in this webinar. We pay our respect to elders past, present, and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people and their cultures and connections to the land, waters of New South Wales and also Victoria. Apologies, we missed that. I'm down in Victoria, and Matilda and Sean are up in New South Wales. So there's a bit of a typo there, but nonetheless, there's still the same acknowledgement of country. Awesome. So what we'll be covering. So the goal for this webinar will be to introduce the broad range of topics that you need to be aware when moving over to the UK. There are a lot of things you need to be present with when relocating countries, and we'll talk through as many of them as possible, but we'll introduce lots of topics. We won't necessarily deep dive into some topics where people will be like, I'd love to learn more about that. The goal is that we cover a broad range, and then you can revisit this later, but then ultimately we can support you in that journey and talk to you in the follow-up and answer those personal questions that you have. This is just broad advice, essentially, is one way to look at it, and broad insights as well. But we'll talk about an introduction. Obviously, we'll talk a bit more about ourselves in a minute, and we'll throw out to everyone for some polls. We love polls at Prospero, so be wary that there are some polls coming your way, so we will ask everyone to contribute. We'll talk about why hopefully you choose us as a partner agency to move over to the UK, what we offer, the type of work, and the community focus that we have in and amongst our company. And then types of roles available. There might be some teaching assistants on the call, some teachers, early childhood specialists, primary, secondary. So we'll talk about what sort of opportunities are available. what you need to do to relocate to the UK. This is a really big one because it will touch on the compliance requirements and then also the visa eligibility. Unfortunately, not everyone can go to the UK or most countries around the world due to visa restrictions, but we hope that everyone on the webinar, in particular if you are from Australia and New Zealand, there is a very clear pathway to go there through the Youth Mobility Scheme visa, which we'll touch on, and then we'll talk through teaching registrations and all that. If you're interested, also more so wanting to learn about when and where, we'll touch on that. And then where to from here. So the goal from this webinar is that you'll have a really good insight into Prospero as a team. Matilda, myself, and Shauna, we work on our AusNZ international team. And then from here, we hope to be able to start your journey. It might be next week you want to leave, it might be next month, next year, or in 3 years, or anywhere in the middle. We're just excited to obviously get to know you all and learn about your preferences and how we can support that journey ahead. So we're going to throw to some introductions, and then we will throw out to an introduction poll for everyone. So it's very nice to meet you. My name is Tyler, and I head up our international recruitment team. And I've been, I'm based in Victoria in Australia, which, as I mentioned before, but I've been working with Prospero since about November of last year. And before that, I was working with another company doing international recruitment. So I've been in the international recruitment space for about 4 years now, actually. But if we fast or rewind a few years back behind that, I probably could have started there. I'm actually originally a teacher, and then I moved over to the UK back in 2016 after graduating, teaching here in Victoria. Taught for about 6 months. Had the travel bug, really wanted to move overseas, was really excited about making the journey over to London, had a few friends that were living there, and then decided I was going to book a one-way ticket and then make my journey over to the UK. And booking that ticket and making that flight over was the best decision I ever made. And then ever since then, after teaching in the UK, in London specifically, for about 1 year, that then started my journey in recruitment. And then ever since then, I haven't really looked back on helping people make that journey over to the UK. My role does help people move to Australia or to New Zealand, and we'll talk about Prospero, other opportunities available with our team. But fundamentally, really excited to meet everyone online, and then hopefully we can get you on that plane over to the UK at the right time for you, because you'll absolutely love it. And like I said, making that journey over was the best decision I made, and hopefully everyone can have a similar feeling when you're able to make that journey over yourself. I'll throw to Matilda, who's in our Sydney office now. Thank you, Matilda.
Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, so I'm in the Sydney office. So we're very quiet right now, being out of hours. I'm normally quite full behind us now. But my full title is International Talent Acquisition Specialist. Bit of a mouthful there. But I've been in recruitment for around 3 years now. Previously, I lived and worked in the UK myself. I went over on the Youth Mobility Skilled Visa and worked as a teacher's assistant and did school administration work as an agency worker myself, and then upon return came into recruitment and then help others go on the same journey that I did previously as well. And now I'll pass to Shauna.
Hi, I'm Shauna. I'm an international candidate manager here at Prospero. I'm currently based in our Sydney office, but I'll be moving to London myself on Tuesday. So I'm making the journey that you're all planning to make very soon. I've 7 years experience in early years education. And after arriving in Australia, I went into education recruitment.
Amazing. So good. Thank you, guys. And now what we're going to do is follow up with a poll. So hopefully this works. Amazing. Can everyone see that? That's come up on everyone's screen. If so, please vote for your answers. So just getting to know where everyone's from, essentially. So if everyone could just post into their or just more so answer into the polling system. But you can also post into the chat as well if you wanted to. Like if you're from, I'm personally in Torquay in Victoria. Matilda and Shauna are over in Sydney. If you wanted to post where you're from in whatever country you're in, that would be amazing. A big part about Prospero is us getting to help facilitate connections with teachers meeting other teachers or TAs meeting other TAs. So yeah, definitely make sure that you're posting into the chat. You might be able to meet someone who you might be able to live with. You never know. That will obviously be a goal for us, is that people can connect with other people. So amazing. Well, I'll finish that up now, and we've got an absolute mix, to be honest. I think that's sharing pretty much everywhere. So hopefully the tests are coming in there, if that's working, but I'm not sure if that if all the people have answered in the question. Only about half the people answered, which is totally fine, but the other people haven't answered, make sure the next poll you guys do tune in. Cool, nice. So we'll keep going through. So This was me again. All right, I'm back on it. Sorry, I thought this was one of you guys. Apologies. So you might be thinking already, why Prospero? So we'll talk a little bit about us as a company. So we were founded over 20 years ago, and we were founded by our two CEOs, Rob and Leslie Gray, who are still our current CEOs, and they're based out of our London office. So we started off as a London operation, a small community operation with only a handful of staff over 20 years ago, and the company has grown and grown and grown leaps and bounds since then, and we've since expanded our operations into Australia, where we're calling from now. Then we'll also have an operation and an office over in New Zealand. But essentially, we've been helping teachers and TAs relocate to the UK for the best part of about 15 years of that 20 plus year journey. And we've got a really big global community of teachers that we support. And it's a really big emphasis for us is that community connection. So we want everyone on the call, as I mentioned, to be able to meet other people who are traveling over to the UK, because we know a lot of people, you're traveling by yourself, you might only know one or two people max in the UK, you might know a heap. We want to be able to invite you to events, get you into some WhatsApp groups before you go, so you can really feel as if you're not traveling by yourself. As I mentioned, we've got these offices across the globe. We've got 13 offices across the UK, which we'll touch on in the next couple of slides. Our service also is, to touch on, it is free as well. In terms of any costs that you bear, the only costs come from the move itself. There is no cost for Prospero supporting your journey. So it is a completely free journey for you to move over to the UK. And then we do offer a very much like a personalized service. So everyone will have an individual consultant, whether it be Matilda, whether it be Shauna, potentially myself, or one of the other team members out there in Australia and New Zealand. Then you'll be able to have a UK-based consultant as well. So you'll always have someone who you'll be able to speak with, but us in our international team will really support your journey across that whole way. And we do provide holistic support. So it's not just looking for a job. That's obviously a really important part of why you might want to sign up to Prospero to move over to the UK. But we will give you support in terms of what a visa to apply for, opening a bank account, where to live, any other questions you might have about the move. And we do have an exciting relocation bonus, which is up to £1,000. The up to £1,000 has a little bit of criteria in terms of how long you'd work with us as a business. But essentially, if you're able to sign on to a long-term role, if you were to continue on your service beyond a year with us, then you could be eligible for up to £1,000 of a relocation. So really nice incentive there. But that's pretty much us in a nutshell. We're very much, like I said, a community values-driven agency. So we want to make sure we get to know everyone really, really well, and get you over to the UK in due course. Matilda, this is you now. Is that right?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Tyler. So now I'll just cover what services that we provide. And so with that, and kind of what Tyler touched on that previously, is we support you through your entire journey. That can even be years out before just contemplating on thinking, I might want to go to the UK. Then you book in a call with one of ourselves, and then we can chat to you really years, months leading up. And then once you're in the UK as well, to be able to help you with any other advice that can lead to the visa advice in regards to accommodations, have a chat and our advice for that in regards to roles, but then also after in regards to going to socials and things like that as well. So we really want to help you every step of the way in regards to that there. Also help in regards to placement to roles all across England and Wales. And Shauna will go into that in a little bit more details there. Around 13 offices there, and have a huge reach across all of the UK there. Also help in regards to training and development. We know a lot of you may not have even jumped in the classrooms before into teaching assistant roles to be able to help you in regards to that, but also transitioning into a completely new classroom, being overseas as well. And then the events and community, like Tyler said, we try to introduce you to as many like-minded people as possible as well. And that can be through our socials. We're holding the next one on the 20th of September for everyone starting around September. But then also professional development sessions like our after school clubs and other things like that.
Amazing. Good work, Matilda.
Wonderful.
And we're going to go to a poll. Apologies, they were in the wrong order, I think.
No worries at all. Yeah, so we're just wanting to jump into now currently, why do you want to move to the UK? Can be a multitude of reasons. So going through that, it's the cultural immersion. So jumping into what it's actually like to live in a different city. Career development, you can see you guys already picking a lot of those ones as well. Travel and work, new beginnings with friends, and which may become family, and personal growth as well. And me personally, I think with heading over as well, I was in a bit of a funk here in Sydney, Australia, been here all of my life and wanted to see what's out there, what can be a little bit different. So I headed over with friends, and then the cliche, sometimes you have to go to the other side of the world to really find yourself, what you like, what you dislike, and then came back a bit more centered and focused and knowing what I wanted to go through there. So what about you, Shauna? You're heading over in a week?
I'm heading over in less than a week now. I came to Australia 2 years ago. I'm originally from Ireland and I loved it, but I really miss being close to home. But I didn't necessarily want to go home. I just wanted to be within an hour distance, which London seemed like the perfect fit for me. And I also just miss going my holidays to Europe. So for me, it's going closer to home, to family and friends, and being able to travel all around Europe all over again.
Amazing. And myself as well, because we're going to do the trio for this one. It was a bit of a mix, to be honest. Definitely a huge motivator was travel and work. In full honesty, that was one of the reasons I wanted to be able to travel over to Europe, be able to enjoy living in London and traveling around the UK. But it actually ended up being, for me, career development, professional development as well was a big one. Even though I did personally leave the classroom, I was able for myself to make many steps in the right direction there. But being able to see so many teachers hit that mark as well, because there's so many career development opportunities when you are in the UK. So it might not be the motivating factor for you when you're moving over, but having international experience goes a long way in your future employability, whether that be if you are from Australia or New Zealand back home in Oz and NZ. I know that there is a bit of a mix in terms of different other nationalities, whether it be the Philippines or Nigeria. Obviously getting the role over in the UK can leapfrog you into other parts of the world too. So that's definitely a really big point for everyone who wanting to go, that you do get this as an end result, even though it might not be the motivating factor why you want to move in the first place.
Awesome. Now we'll jump to Shauna.
So here we're going to cover where in the UK, and the first things first is things to consider. Majority of our educators tend to travel to London, Manchester, Bristol, kind of being our three main. But if you're interested in any of our other offices, we can definitely look into that for you as well. Location preferences, mine was London. It depends where you want to go. Everyone's a little bit different. Cost of living, honestly, this depends on where you're going. I'm going to London myself, so in my eyes, the closer you are to Central, the more expensive it's going to get. The further you go out of London, the cheaper it's going to get. I'm going Tulse Hill, which is roughly around 600 for me, but we'll touch base more on that later on. But honestly, if you're in London, your rates are probably going to be a little bit higher. And if you're outside of London, the cost of living will definitely be cheaper than London itself. In the UK, sharing houses is really common. I'm going into a 1-bed apartment with 2 other people, and the bonus point of housing in the UK is it all comes furnished, which is great. Things to remember. For me, it's definitely putting the 2-3 weeks of accommodation before you go. Never approve of a place before you actually land. It's best to kind of view it and see it when you're there. And do your research, know your budget. I'm very lucky that I don't need a visa to go over to the UK, that I have the passport being Irish. So for me, my budget was flights and accommodation and all the things I want to do when I arrive. But for you, might look a little bit different, taking into consideration your visa prices. Oh, sorry.
No, all good. I said amazing. On to the next one. Yeah.
So we're going to cover your journey timeline, and this is broken up into 6 steps. If you don't mind moving on to the next slide, Tyler.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Perfect. So this is broken off into 6 simple steps. Each of these steps might look a little bit different for you, but this is the basic kind of what we're going to cover. So initially, you're going to have a chat with either myself or Matilda or another colleague of ours, and we're happy to have a chat with you up until a year before you leave, or even up to about 3 months before you go. Moving on, we're going to go to your UK introduction. Here we'll introduce you to a UK consultant, whether you're already in the UK or if you're currently in Australia or New Zealand. We'll set up a call, either being WhatsApp, or WhatsApp is probably our easiest option, but if that's not available for you, we can definitely look at other options. And then we'll go into your Prospero interview, which is either with myself or Matilda. And we do this anywhere up to 6 months before you arrive. And this will either be with us, or if you're going for a permanent position, it would be with the schools directly, just depending on what route you're going for work. I myself cover the compliance, so you'll be hearing a lot from me when it comes to your compliance documents. Every few weeks I'll be hounding you down with some emails, but we'll get closer to that, closer to time, and we'll cover it on a few slides later. You're then going to travel to the UK, which is where I'm at currently. I'm packing my bags, even though I'm a little bit slow at it. 6 days out and I'm still a little bit behind, but pack your bags and start your trip. And then you're going to be in the UK and getting ready to go into the classroom.
Amazing. And we've got some pretty handy resources as well, which we'll share with you as a part of the journey. And just in the top corner here, hopefully this is clicking over so everyone can see the slides changing. But this is just one example of some of the resources that we'll share with you that you'll have access to for your journey over. Touches into the office locations and everything, but towards the back of the pack, obviously touches on the visas, but then it goes into some stuff we'll mention later on. But talking about the how to apply for national insurance number, just some really important like life admin things that are, utilities and everything, just to sort of give you all the tips and tools that you need to know to be able to make the move over and then not forget some really important stuff. We have a nice little checklist that we'll share right at the end of the webinar as well. And also just posting into the chat the branch locations too. So if everyone wants to maybe save that link in your bookmarks, whatever it is, and that way you can look to see and go onto our website and look at the different office locations that Shauna went through a couple of slides ago. So fabulous. And then we will talk through what's going on here. We've got like an addition to this slide. Give me 1 sec. I might try and. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on there. We must have copied that in. It's all good. I'll share that into the chat actually because we do want to share that with everyone. But we weren't planning to have it showing on the middle of the page. But anyway, we'll come back to that. That blog was essentially what I'll post into the chat, and it just talks about what's on this slide in a bit more detail. We must have accidentally copied it in there when we're preparing for the webinar. But anyway, we'll come back to it. So when to arrive. So a really big part of it is going to be what your work preferences are and what your personal, availability is in one way to put it, to move with like those different factors when you actually can move. Maybe you need to sell a house or get finish a rental agreement or graduate from university or whatever it is, that you needed to work around, and then what sort of role you're looking for. So one of the biggest ones is trying to arrive at the beginning of the school term if you want a long-term role. That's one of the most important things before the UK school term starts. You can just picture, if a lot of us are teachers on the call, I actually think we might have skipped a poll earlier asking what type of educator everyone is. So we're going to come back to another poll. I just realised that's what I think confused me before. So we'll come back to that in a sec. But if you're wanting a long-term role, you can empathise that the UK schools would want the teachers to start at the beginning of the term. It's not an absolute deal breaker if you're a little bit later, but it's really important to try and get there as early as possible. We'd recommend to be available day one. If you're looking for a casual role, that's going to vary a little bit because there's the demand across most of the year, except it is smaller or less work available right at the start of the terms and right at the end, in particular the beginning of the academic year and the end. The UK academic year runs from September until August, so it's essentially starting in less than 2 weeks. When Shauna touches down the UK academic year will kick into gear then. So it is quite different to down here in Australia and NZ, where it runs sort of off the opposite. We go from January to December, and then it's from September till July. So that's just something to be aware of. We do offer guaranteed pay schemes as well. So if you are wanting to go over and do casual work, we do always encourage it as a really viable option. Long-term work just gives you a bit more job security, higher income, and the benefits of working in the one school. But if that's not for you for whatever reason, we can offer you guaranteed pay doing casual work, and that runs across the majority of the year as well, just not those quieter times of the term at the end, sorry, at the start and at the end as well. One of the best things about the UK is the half-term breaks. So essentially the half-term breaks, they go in between Christmas and then Easter, and then over the summer holidays isn't a half-term break, that's the summer holiday break. But sorry, I just confused myself there. The term breaks go in between Christmas and Easter, but the half-term breaks go in the middle of those terms, I should say. And so every 6 or 7 weeks, you actually get a week off, which is really, really good. So you don't have to worry about in Oz and NZ where you've got sometimes a 10 or 11 week term. I think sometimes there's even 12-week terms in there on the occasion, but every 6 or so weeks, you do get a break, which is obviously really exciting. The way the schools recruit as well in the lead up to January, which is the next recruitment window for schools outside of September, which is just starting now. So if you're looking to move in the next 2 weeks and you have a right to work approved, you could potentially still get a job. There is a chance, but it's likely everyone on the call, January 2025 would probably be the most likely time for you to be able to interview and secure a role. And schools will start interviewing from September onwards. So if you've already spoken with our team, that's obviously really exciting. If you haven't spoke with us, then obviously that will be wanting to get you on the phone, just to understand if this does suit what you're looking for. But maybe it's April, or maybe it's the following September 2025. It's going to be the right time for you at the end of the day. And that brings us to a poll. When are you looking to go? So there's obviously these options here, which may suit yourself. September being really, really close. We actually don't have that as an option. I guess ASAP would be September 2024, one way to look at it. But if everyone can just post into or answer the questions in the poll, and you guys can also feel free to post into the chat as well if you wanted to, just when you're looking to make the move over to the UK.
Yeah, I was about to say, Sue, I saw that one before. You're already there. So you're pre-ASAP, whatever that is. So yeah.
Nice, go Sue. Yeah, I did notice. I forgot that Sue mentioned that before. You're in London. Well, the good thing is, Sue, if you're already there, and then I think Helen might have messaged us directly saying that you're already there as well. Well, you've already ticked a lot of boxes, to be honest, in terms of being in the UK. So definitely reach out to us. Like, well, I dare say immediately after the call with you, because we want to get you set up. We have over on our schools team, because we are split across health and social care at Prospero. We have over 250 staff in the UK that work within education. So we really, really hope that we can get you set up for work nice and quickly, Sue. But thank you for tuning in. Cool. So we'll finish those poll questions. Nice. So we got a mix. We had a few people, most people want to move ASAP, January to June, and then a bit of a mix after that as well. Nice. Well done. Perfect. So the finances, and then the incomings and earnings, and then bonuses. So essentially, when you're working in a long-term position, we'll do our absolute utmost to get you paid on the main pay scale and have your overseas international experience recognised by UK school. And that will be sort of set out where you're living in the UK, because the pay scales vary dependent upon where you're based. So essentially, if you're looking to live in London, Sean alluded to this before, you get paid more for working in inner London, supposed to what you were if you get paid if you're working over in Manchester or out of London. So it goes inner London, out of London, fringe, and then the rest of the UK. So they're all on different, slightly different pay scales. It helps with the cost of living, loading allowance for when you're living in more central London. It is more expensive, and that's premised around the long-term positions. If you're wanting to go over to the UK and do daily supply, your pay rate, you will earn less on a day rate than what you would be doing if you're doing a long-term position. But that this daily supply, it still is quite a workable, livable rate if you're wanting to still, travel and do all those things. You just would earn more if you are doing a contract role as well. But this daily rate is definitely a livable wage. And then looking over here, we touched on the relocation bonuses. So the relocation bonuses, they will vary in two parts. There's one down here, which is a government payment, which isn't from Prospero. That's for maths, also not maths teachers, sorry, science teachers and language teachers, which is up to £10,000 international relocation payment. And that would be paid out to you if you're a science or language teacher, except in a full-time contract at a school. But the one that we can give you as well, which is exciting, is up to £1,000 relocation bonus, which I touched on a couple of slides ago, and that's for the guaranteed pay scheme or a long-term role. If you accepted that before you go over to the UK or Prospero, that essentially allows us to help you relocate, as the name may suggest. We're really big on referrals as well with Prospero. So if anyone who you know is wanting work, whether it's Sue, some people who are in the UK who want to get to work, or maybe you got some connections down under here in Australia, or anyone else on the call, we do offer a referral bonus once it's paid out, would be once the candidates work 20 days for teachers or TAs. But we'd hope that you wouldn't necessarily refer someone on the premise that you want a financial incentive. We would hope that you would do it, that you've had a really good experience with Prospero tomorrow, and that you want to refer someone on. That's sort of our goal, that you have a really good experience with our team, and then that way you can share that out to friends or family or people in your network, whatever it is. And then in terms of the exchange rates, apologies, we've only got Oz and NZ here. It was a couple of weeks ago as well. This might have altered a wee bit, but essentially, if you're budgeting 2 to 1 thereabouts, it might change a little bit, but 2 to 1 Australian dollars to the pound. So if you've got 2 Australian dollars, it'll cost you £1 when you're over there. The cost of living when you're there, it is pretty manageable in terms of like a lot of stuff is cheaper, like groceries or travel or booking a flight to Greece costs you $200 and it's 3 hours away, as opposed to $3,500 and it's 24 hours away. So you do save a bit there in terms of the lower costs for travel and getting around and everything. So cool. I think this is on to Shauna. Yes, nice.
So we're just going to be covering finances and setting up in the UK. Currently, I'm going through all this with you while you're looking at these costs. Well, don't be afraid of the numbers you see on screen. Honestly, when you break it down, it's actually not that bad. Your flights are honestly depending the time of year you go and who you're flying with, but you're looking at anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500 and then you have your visa. Again, I'm lucky, I don't have to do this point where I just get my Irish passport and I get to fly over, or if you're from the UK yourself, you're already set up. But for the youth mobility visa, which is the most common visa that any Australians and Kiwis are going to use, roughly costs $3,500 for the 3 years. And this kind of includes your application form, your biometrics, and your health immigration surcharge. And then we're going to be looking at your UK accommodation. Again, I recommend you book anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks accommodation, whether that's hostels or Airbnb. And roughly, you can probably have this paid before you ever go. So you're kind of looking at anywhere for about $3,500 for those 3 weeks. Hopefully, it doesn't actually cost you that amount. This is just a rough estimate on our behalf. Spending money, if you're like me, I love Aldi, cheap and cheerful. So my groceries are already cut to a little bit of a budget there, but you're looking at maybe about $3,000 before you start work, and your total cost is about $11,500 to about $13,000. Again, I like to think about it a little bit like girl math. I've already spent my flight money, it's gone. You're already going to be spending your visa money, that's gone. You probably pay for your accommodation before you go, so really it's like free travel if you think about it. It's my way of saving money for myself. And then we're going to look at your rent and your bills in the UK. Again, London's probably going to be that little bit more expensive. You're looking at anywhere from £600 to £1,200 per month. Most places in the UK are monthly. Unlike here in Australia, I pay fortnightly, so just depending. Luckily enough, they do come furnished, which I think is a major bonus. Frightened me a little bit when I came to Australia and they weren't furnished and I had to buy all my own furniture. The rest of UK, if you're outside of it, it's probably looking a little bit cheaper. You're probably looking anywhere from $300 to $700. And then your general expenses, again, it's how you're wanting to travel. Your groceries, like I said, I'm an Aldi girl. If you're not an Aldi girl, you might be looking at a little bit more expensive, but budget around £200 to £400 per month. And if you're outside the UK, you're looking at anywhere from £100 to £300 per month.
Amazing. So good, Shauna. We're going to go back to a poll that we missed earlier. So apologies, everyone. But we're going to ask everyone what type of educator you are. It's not linked to this slide. Apologies. But if everyone just wanted to answer this next poll. So, and again, you can post into the chat if you like as well. But what type of educator are you? Whether you're a primary teacher, a secondary teacher. I'm personally a secondary trained teacher. Shauna is an early childhood educator originally, and then support staff or no experience. Awesome. We'll give everyone about another 5 or 10 seconds. But we've got a fair few secondary teachers on the call for this one. All right, I'll share that everyone now. Amazing. So a big mix. Unfortunately, Shawnee, the only early childhood educator on the call. Sorry.
I understand why.
Yeah. All good. All good. Nice. So thank you, everyone. We will keep on going through. Nice. Over to you, Matilda, I think.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Tyler. So just to jump through the work opportunities that we have available, and kind of as the polls kind of alluded to, that we are able to help qualified and unqualified educators. That covers early childhood teachers, primary, secondary teachers as well, also in regards to leadership opportunities, but then the roles with students with additional needs as well. And within the support staff opportunities, there are teaching assistant opportunities. So that's in special education needs or in regards to PRU schools, which Tyler will touch on as well, but that's pupil referral schools. So more like behavioural units in regards to that, but then also opportunities available for mainstream schools as well. So that can be a teaching assistant working one-to-one with a student or in small groups or just a general TA with that. The next above that is a cover supervisor, and that's what I like to say to people. So that can be pretty much like the substitute teacher or the relief teacher for the day. That can be unqualified as well, but they are wanting a bit more experience rather than just throwing you right in front of the classroom with no experience there. But then also there's opportunities for the high level teaching assistants, and then they're not as common, but we do have roles that pop up on occasion, such as administration roles or the tech position, so in food design science, as well as caretaker and grounds keeper as well. And just wanted to touch on the key stages as well, because it's slightly different to then, especially within Australia and New Zealand. So then they focus on the early years, what we refer to as early childhood. So that's from ages 0 to 3 in the nurseries and receptions, which a lot of them are attached to the primary schools and the secondary schools as well. But then you have key stage 1 and 2, and that's from years 1 to 3 for primary, and then secondary is key stage 3 to 5 from years 7 to years 13, finishing off in the A levels as well, plus in regards to the special education needs as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Matilda. All right, we've got this slide here on schools, but we did forget another poll earlier. So I'm going to throw to one last poll, I promise. It's where do you want to live in the UK? So if you could think back to the slide which Sean had done an amazing job of going through, if you just wanted to list in where you want to live. So we've got London, Bristol, Southwest England, the north of England, so Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, Newcastle, anywhere in the north, and then Wales as well. Which is obviously really exciting part of the UK to live. Got the auto sensor lights in the Sydney office ticking off.
We're alive.
Nice. And then anywhere I'm flexible, which is good. To be honest, like the last point here, which is anywhere I'm flexible, which most people have actually answered, in particular, pardon me, if you're looking for a long-term role or a contract role, that is really, really good. But not to say that having preferences to live in London is a bad thing or living in Wales is a bad thing, because you can obviously focus in on that. But flexible means that there's more opportunities available to you because you'd accept a role in the numerous locations. So one of the biggest things we always encourage is keep your options open as well with the move, and that links well into this sort of slide too. So we really want to hone in on what your work preferences are. So if you've got set preferences, your experiences are within, say, single sex schools. That's where all your experience lies, whether it's all girls schools or boys schools. If you're wanting to continue on in that space, you feel like you're really comfortable there, and you feel like that's really where you excel and can grow as an individual, then that's what we want to find. If you're actually wanting to expand out and maybe challenge yourself, step out of your comfort zone and go into co-ed settings, then we want to really learn that from you as well, because then we want to try and get you into as close as possible as that. In the UK, there's the broad spectrum of schools as there are in most countries, and we support across all of these different schools, ranging from mainstream government funded schools, which are state schools over in the UK. These make up the majority of the schools that we do support, and they're sort of split across all of the UK. Independent schools, we do have a lot of relationships with. Academies are set up sort of like group schools in the UK that aren't necessarily, well, they're not state schools. They sort of run under their own jurisdiction in many ways. So there are a lot of opportunities in the academies. Pupil referral units and special educational needs schools. So the pupil referral units, I Matilda touched on the slide before, will cater for students who have challenging behavioural difficulties and are being excluded from mainstream settings. SEN schools, students will cater for students who have special educational needs. So whether that be autism, Down syndrome, dyslexia, and these environments are set up to help support those students with their learning, and they're really rewarding places to work. So if you don't have experience in, or actually, this, I stopped sharing the poll. Oops, sorry. Was that poll sharing the whole time, or was it? No, God, hope not. I said stop sharing. I didn't realize I'd stopped. Anyway, I'll come back to it. Apologies. So, and then, yeah, the co-ed schools and single-sex schools, they're the other options. Faith schools, community schools, and then day nurseries as well if you're looking for early childhood work. So, but probably to touch back on the pupil referral units, SEN schools, they're really, really rewarding places to work. And if you haven't tried it before, you're an experience in it, just the willingness and eagerness to say yes to doing it is the first step. And that will go a long way in us trying to find you work in those settings. So definitely put your hand up for that if you haven't done it. We actually have specialist SEN teams as well who focus and support schools and educators looking for work in SEN settings. So definitely, yeah, put your hand up for that if it's something you're interested in. Let us know. Amazing. Cool. So the types of work available. So we've already sort of touched on this a little bit, but it's good to, I guess, give an overview of it as we go through the webinar, just so it's nice and clear for everyone. So one of the options is doing daily supply work, which we've spoke about, and that's when you're employed directly through Prospero. And essentially what that will mean is that you're going out doing daily bookings for us, maybe short-term bookings. They could be, you know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever that is. And you're going into different schools or different nurseries, whatever it is, across the week. And we try and keep it as minimal as possible. But it does give you good flexibility, good variety. It does often lead to contract roles as well. So if you're wanting to actually secure a contract, this can be a really good stepping stone. If you're wanting to start off doing a long-term role, that's 100% a viable option that we can support with as well. So in particular, if your visa might dictate one of the, to be fair, sorry, I should elaborate a bit more there. The visa, if you don't have a right to work, would be a permanent role that you need to secure, which we'll touch on in a couple of slides around the skilled worker visa. But if you have the right to work in the UK already, whether it's a passport or a youth mobility visa, these are the options that you could look at. The permanent visa would be you have to get employed directly by a school. Whereas if you're doing a long-term role, and let's just say you're an English teacher, you could still be employed directly through Prospero. We would still be your employer, but you'd be getting paid for your work at the school, working in an ongoing capacity. And that's really good for job security, developing relationships at the school. You get to work at the one school as well. And we can, like I said, arrange that before you arrive. And career development is a big part of this too, because as much as daily supply is great, you really are going to develop your career when you're working in the one school. And then again, yeah, to finish on the permanent, if you are in the UK and you've made it there with your right to work approved, that can lead to a permanent role when you already get there. So you might start off doing via a long-term role, and then you might lead to a permanent opportunity, and this can lead to you getting sponsored as well if you wanted to stay there long-term too. So just gives you everyone a little snapshot of the different types of work available. I know we've had a few questions come in on the poll, but actually not questions, they're just more so comments, I think. So, but we'll keep going through and we'll come back. But definitely, guys, make sure to ask questions as we go through. Matilda's going to touch on a few questions that everyone might have now in terms of the right to work. So I'll throw to you, Matilda, to go through the next couple of slides.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Tyler. And so the main thing to look at, or one of the first things to look at, is the working rights in the UK. So it kind of comes down to the visa option. So if you're British passport, like Sue, or like we should add in Irish passport as well with Shauna, then get automatic working rights then. If not, then we have to look at the right to work and what visa options are available there. Now, if you want to go, Tyler.
I got excited there, sorry.
Excited there. All good, all good. So yeah, we've just put on the most common visas. There are more visa options than these ones, but these are the ones we get the most questions about. So the first one here is the Youth Mobility Scheme visa. And so this one is like we have at the first bullet point there, the working holiday visa. So this is for anyone who's aged between 18 to 36 years of age that has an Australian, New Zealand or Canadian passport. You're automatically eligible for this visa. It's a 2-year visa that with the latest updates, you can apply for the 3rd year during your 2nd year, but for the costs and initial savings, it's just applicable for the first 2 years there. So just to keep in mind, you do need to have a savings of around 5,000 Australian dollars. The UK immigration don't touch that. They just need to be able to check that bank balance. But then the initial cost is around £1,800, so around $3.5 Aussie dollars there. The next one is for the ancestry visa. And so this is for anyone who's lucky enough to have a grandparent that was born in the UK. It's a 5-year visa, so longer than that 2-year visa then. However, it does come with a larger cost as well. Jumping down the bottom, you can see the 5,800 pounds there, so pretty much 10,000 Aussie dollars initial. So we don't kind of shy away. It is a costly visa, but if you are wanting it for the fair chunk of time, that's an option there as well. And it's the pathway to UK settlements, and you can add dependents on as well for this visa. And then the next one is the skilled worker visa. And so this one has the most conditions as part of it. For Prospero, we're able to look at sponsorship opportunities for schools, but it's mainly for those secondary teachers, so those STEM teachers, so science, the tech, maths there, also English, humanities, and some languages as well, due to the high demand there. But however, it's normally for a minimum of a 2-year contract that the schools are looking for. You do need the QTS, so people who are jumping in from other countries outside of Australia, New Zealand, Canada, this is the one to look for, but you also need to have that QTS to be eligible for this visa. And then we have the costs down the bottom of around 2,600 to around 3,300 pounds there. If you want to jump to the next slide, please, Tyler.
Amazing. And the biggest one for this one is the skilled worker visa. Like I know Matilda's already said it, but just really emphasize it is tied to a UK job offer from a school. So whilst we can, in many cases, guarantee employment if you are eligible for these visas, the skilled worker visa, if you're not eligible for any other visa except that, it is premised on a UK job offer. And then it is generally, in most cases, scenarios, it is these subject groups here. There are some nuances to that, but generally speaking, these are the subject groups that would get sponsored, could get sponsored. So we'll just talk through the QTS applications. I'm just going to post a couple links into the chat just now about how to apply for a QTS. But essentially, if you're an Australian or New Zealand trained teacher and you've got your full teaching registration, let's just say if you're from Victoria and you've got your VIT and you've done your, you completed your provisional registration, you can then apply for your QTS, which is your qualified teacher status over in the UK, and it is free to do so. And you will get accepted if you're an Australian or New Zealand trained teacher. If you're a graduate and you're on the call and you're like, bloody hell, I actually don't have my full teaching degree. I'm a graduate and I actually want to leave straight after I graduate. That is totally fine, because over in the UK, you can teach as an overseas trained teacher for up to 4 years without your QTS. Generally, you'd still be likely employed through an agency such as us at Prospero, because that's one of the parameters around being able to continue your employment and working at a school as an overseas trained teacher. And if you're provisionally registered, that obviously ticks that box for yourself. If you're not from Australia or New Zealand, one of the links which I sent into the chat just then was around for African-based applicants from South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, and then there's a couple South Asian nationalities such as Singapore and Jamaica. I know there's a few people from the Philippines on the line, which from my understanding at least, apologies, everyone on the call is from the Philippines. If you have trained as a teacher in the Philippines, I don't believe you're eligible for to apply for a QTS in the current state of affairs with the QTS application process. So that is just something to keep in mind. If you can't access a right to work and you are from the Philippines, I would have to maybe check after the call. There can be some lucky people on the call, but I'm almost certain that would mean that you won't be eligible if you are from the Philippines. A question here, what happens after a 2-year contract for the skilled worker visa? So it can continue. So the skilled worker visa, as it says here, it can be, it actually technically is 1 year as a minimum, but it can be up to 3 from the get-go. And if you're enjoying the school and the school wants you to stay on, then that can continue on as well. And if you're there for long enough, that can give you the right to work and also the leave to remain or pathways to citizenship potentially as well, if you are looking to stay in the UK long term. Okay, so I'm provisionally registered in NZ from the Philippines. Okay, so if you've got your teaching qualifications from New Zealand, then you should be fine. It's where your qualifications are for the QTS. Your right to work determines your visa. So there is a bit of a difference there. If you're Filipino national but trained in New Zealand, you might not be eligible for a visa, but you should be and could be eligible for the skilled worker visa, dependent upon what you teach. So, but you're as a primary school teacher. Sorry, I don't have your name. It's another test. So apologies. I don't want to call you test, but apologies that it's in the current arrangements. Unfortunately, with the primary teachers, there just isn't as a demand for schools to take on primary teachers to get sponsored over in the UK, which is the reason for that. It's not something that we would choose. We'd love to say yes, we'll get you over there and find you a job. It's just on the demand from schools currently that generally aren't accepting primary school sponsorships. But amazing. Cool. I think, Shauna, we're flying back to you for this one. Am I right?
Yes.
Nice.
So we're just going to touch base on compliance. Again, looking at this, it can be a little bit scary, but I promise I don't bite when I send out these emails about what I need from you. So basically, we're going to need a CV. We're going to need your proof of right to work or your eligibility. Mandatory sources of your safeguarding prevent. We provide those courses for you when you sign up and when you're getting ready to go over to the UK. Your DBS, it's like the equivalent of your working with children's check over in the UK. Your police check, this is for anyone that has lived in a country longer than 6 months in the last 5 years. We would require this, and 2 references, and they must be from a professional email, so either a principal or a manager with professional emails as well, covering all roles within the last 2 years.
Amazing. And when would we start the compliance process as well, Shauna? Like if someone's got the right to work, they're looking to arrive in January, whenabouts would we be maybe expecting to get all these documents all sorted?
If you're going for January, I'll send it 3 months to you before you're getting ready to go. So if you're looking to go start of January, I'll send it to you 3 months prior, and for those 3 months we'll work together and getting all your compliance done.
Nice, amazing. I love this photo as well, off topic of the London Eye. Used to when I was living in London, my previous company, the office was actually not too far from there. I used to like sometimes ride the bike around there. So a bit of nostalgia. It's a very beautiful day. It's a bit of sun there, as always doesn't always happen in the UK. The clouds are probably a good representation of the skies in London with a little bit of clouds floating about. So, but thank you, Shauna. And then the ultimate checklist. This is the holy grail for everyone who's ready to make the move.
That's it. This is me currently, except I'm just coming to the end of my checklist. Pack your bags. This is a big one. Consider sending your stuff over. If you're like me, I'm a little bit of a bookworm. I bought 1 million books while I was here. So a big thing for me was I was wanting to send all my books to the UK. So maybe pre-plan that. Share your travel dates and your plans with us or via our WhatsApp groups that we have available. Complete all your compliance. Again, don't worry if you don't, I'll be chasing you for it. Arrange your accommodation. Again, at least 1 to 3 weeks of accommodation before you arrive to the UK. Purchase your travel insurance. Organise your overseas money and your local SIM card. All very easy to get before you go to the UK or once you land. Verify your right to work status and confirm your dates and secure your flights. Once you touch down, do recommend that you plan a bucket list trip of yours around Europe. Mine's definitely going to be Greece. I've had it on my highlights now for the last 3 years, so that's my bucket list. Attend your UK induction and your welcome social event. If you're going in September, our next one will be the 20th of September, and we'll share those details close to the time. Schedule your viewings. Most people will use Share Room. That's how I found mine myself. It's a great website, and majority of the UK use Spare Room. Register with your local GP and your National Health Service. Apply for your national insurance number. You actually can't apply for your national insurance number unless you're in the UK. So this is why we say wait until you've touched down. Open up your bank account, or if you're wanting to have something beforehand, apply for a Revolut. You can set that up from wherever, and then when you get to the UK, you can set up an actual bank account if that's what you choose, or you can stick with Revolut. Collect your biometrics, residence permit, confirm your share code once you've picked up your biometrics, and get ready for your first day in the UK.
Amazing, so exciting. It seems so simple when you put it like that, Shauna. I feel like when I was moving to the UK 8 years ago, I would have loved a little checklist like this. So, and we've also just got apologies if you mentioned it before, Shauna, but we've got a travel affiliation with Kentucky, where you get 10% off the trips with over when you're over in the UK and in Europe. So yeah, there's a discount code as well, which we will share everyone as a part of the follow up, I believe, and that will be able to be available to everyone to book a trip. We have been so efficient in this webinar that we've actually finished early. I've been doing webinars like this for many a year, and I don't think once ever have we finished early. So I don't know if we've spoke quickly and everyone's just been, so well attended that we haven't actually rolled over time. But this is it. So Matilda, you want to sign us off, and then we'll obviously throw to a Q&A for everyone.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, thanks again for everyone joining in tonight. If you are interested in registering with us, feel free to scan the QR code, or we'll also put a link in the chat as well to link up with myself to book in a call as well. Love to have a chat. But if you do have any questions now as well, feel free to pop it in the chat. Love to go over Q&A, but anything that's in depth or you need more explanation with, love to have a call and we can go through that as well there. But having a look at the chat here, let's have a look. Thank you, Tyler, for popping in that link there. But yeah, just to broadly cover lots of questions in regards to the field worker visa and QTS and things like that. And just to clarify that we do only have the opportunity right now for secondary teachers. So unfortunately not primary teachers, just secondary teachers who are QTS eligible. So click on that link, see if your country's on there. If it isn't, unfortunately, we won't be able to support you. If it is, then we can look further into that. But that's just the general questions in regards to those ones there. Tyler, do you see any other questions that you want to go over?
There's a fair bit about sponsorship, which I think we've covered a lot of that in the QTS application. If you haven't applied for your QTS and you need sponsorship, that's essentially the first step. We would obviously love to have a conversation with yourself, which we can definitely do, but we would need to know that obviously you are able to be eligible, and you would need to know that too. So the QTS application process you can follow via the link. So definitely recommend take that as the best first step. Shani GP agreements, that's guaranteed pay. So that's when you're doing supply teaching, casual work, and we'd be then able to guarantee you pay for certain parts of the academic year. That's obviously a good way to have that job security when you move over to the UK. We've got Kiora, New Zealand. I'm a qualified ECE teacher in New Zealand. I've been working in primary school for 3 years. NZ. Allowed to swap between sectors. Is this possible in the UK? So you can go over and have your teaching early childhood qualification recognised over in the UK. Generally, if it is early childhood only, you may have to go through a qualification process called ECTIS to get your QTS if you can only teach under the age of 5. If your ECE degree teaches you up to the above the age of 5, then you should be able to apply for a normal QTS. But if you're under the age of 5, then you need to go through ECTIS to apply for your QTS. But you should hopefully be able to go through that application process just fine. I've said test a lot on this time, but I was going to say your name, but I look back at it, it's test. So apologies.
Up to 6 years, you'll be covered in that. And we've worked with some early childhood educators that have gone over with that. If they are QTS, then it's no worries at all then. So yeah, I would highly recommend jumping on and applying for your QTS ASAP, because it doesn't time out in regards to that.
Mm-hmm. And then what are the next steps after this webinar if I'm interested in working immediately with your agency? If you want to just send us an email is one option, but you can also book a call in with Matilda too. If you're based in the UK, which I know a few people are, then we'd be wanting to get you set up for work as soon as possible. I know one of the questions actually, I think I lost it, was someone who was in Wales looking for work. I lost that one. But yeah, if you're in Wales, then obviously, just reach out to us and we'll get you in touch with the Wales team. I've lost where that one was. Registering, I'm eligible for the QTS. I've just successfully been awarded. Yeah, so if you just want to, perfect. Just send an email to the Teach UK, which Matilda's just posted into the chat. And then that will be a way for us to answer any further questions as well, and looking to see if it is possible to get you set up for work over in the UK in January for whoever has posted saying that they've already got the QTS awarded. Cool. I think we're pretty good. I'm seeing the last one. If you're not eligible, if you're not under the age of 35 and you're Australian, New Zealand citizen, it's likely you would be have to, unless you're eligible for British passport and ancestry visa, you would go down that QTS. So the skilled worker route, and you need a QTS. So hopefully that covers a few other questions that have been in there. Cool. I think we've already covered a lot of these questions. To be fair, Matilda, I'm not sure if you're reading any of these where like we haven't already sort of touched on this.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of them are oh, thanks, Jody. Yeah, a lot of them are in regards to the sponsorship as well. If you do need further clarification, we can provide that as well. But just to let you know that if you are in other countries outside of Australia or New Zealand, we also have a Canadian team as well that are in a friendlier time zone. So we may refer you to them for further information and support there. But yeah, in regards to the QTS status, have a go, click onto the link that we had, and then you'll be able to see if you're eligible. Spit out straight away if you can or not, and then it will apply for your application there. But jump onto the links and it will let you know straight away for these ones. But yeah, happy to wrap it up there, Tyler, if you don't have anything else that you want to cover.
Nah, I think we're pretty good. Yeah. Well, I guess overall, thank you everyone for joining in. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch everyone online this evening. There might be a few mornings in here as well, Sue in particular. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions or feedback, just let us know. Everyone will get a follow-up recording of the webinar afterwards. And then from then, if you want to take those next steps with us, please reach out to us, book a call, send us an email, whatever it is. We know it's a big move. So yeah, definitely make sure that you're ready to make that plunge over to take the journey over to the UK, but you won't regret the move. It's one of the best decisions I know most people will make if you do decide to go and live and travel overseas. So you'll have absolute time of your lives. So amazing. Well, yeah, let's wrap it up there. Thanks, guys. And yeah, look forward to hopefully supporting with everything ahead.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your day or evening. And enjoy your coffee, Sue. Saw that.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. See you later.